HT Smartcast.
You are listening to an HT Smartcast original.
एक मिनट रुक जाओ, रेडी होने दो. चलो ये कर लेते हैं. दिस कुड बी अ ग्रेट इंट्रो.
Hi, I'm Akshay.
Hi, this is Saurabh, and you are listening to the Founder Thesis podcast. We meet some of the most celebrated startup founders in the country.
And we want to learn how to build a unicorn.
Do you remember the last time you went out to eat? If you're like me, you must have used an app for getting a good discount. Dine Out is one of those apps that helps you get a good deal when you're eating out. But Dine Out is a lot more than just an app to get discounts. In fact, there's a very high chance that the restaurant you went to was running its backend using software from Dine Out. The B2B side of Dine Out is huge. They work with more than 50,000 partner restaurants and process transactions of more than $1 billion each year. Today, Akshay is speaking to Ankit Mehrotra, the man who started Dine Out with 3 other childhood friends. The early part of Ankit's life almost sounds like a Karan Johar movie. He grew up in a posh South Delhi colony and studied at modern school Barakamba, which is really one of the most elite schools of India. Like all kids of that generation, he thought that his path was to do engineering, get a job, and so on. And he even joined an engineering college in Pune. But within a month, he realized that it was not his scene and decided to study abroad instead. So Ankit flew to London, joined an engineering college there, and that's where his truly transformative journey began. Here's Ankit telling Akshay about his first impression of the UK.
So I think mesmerized is the right word. What I thought, so it was completely opposite to what I had ever been used to, right? So to give you an idea, right, in India, even in that 1 month where I was at that college, engineering college, it was all textbooks mil gaye aapko, padho, exams and all of that. And that's what the entire education system in India has been, like even during school, like for our 10th and the 12th boards, etc. And especially being a science student, getting marks and all of those things were really important. Yeah, wahan pe jaake I was just blown away because first of all the culture, obviously, So I had not even turned 18 at that point in time. So I was 17. So I started university in September 2002. So I was 17 at that point then, and just that culture just blew me away because I realized that this is a completely different world, and whatever you say about being a South Delhi kid or whatever, over there it was like I am obviously the odd one out because you're not used to that environment. Never been around people, you've never been so free. So study was the entire course was actually a learning experience rather than just a sort of a ratta maroing experience.
So you went there for an engineering course?
Yes, I did my computers and telecom engineering. So bachelor of computers and telecom engineering from the University of Essex.
Okay. And how did you change during your time there, during the course there, like compared to who you were here?
So I think for me that profound moment actually happened during one of the first exams that I was giving there, right? So India में क्या होता है ना यार कि आप रट्टा मारते हो, पढ़ लेते हो, याद करते हो सब, you might understand or might not understand, but you just मारो your रट्टा, reach the exam, and then नहीं आता है कुछ, कभी स्कूल में भी होता है, आपने आसपास पूछ लिया, थोड़ा चीटिंग करने की कोशिश की, all of those things are natural, that happen. So here I am giving my first exam, and so this for me was a huge learning point in my life. So I still remember it very clearly. It was a Java exam that I was giving at the end of the first semester or whatever it was, and I'm sitting in this room full of I think 100 odd students from all across from different nationalities, and it was supposed to be I think a 3-hour paper or something like that. यार फटी हुई है, फर्स्ट एग्जाम दे रहे हैं, अच्छे मार्क्स लाने हैं, ऑल ऑफ दैट है, And 1 hour later, I see a couple of people, like friends of mine, like British friends of mine, and other friends from other sort of. I think there was one Spanish guy, one Italian guy, and one British guy. So they like within 1 hour or 1.5 hours of the exam, walked out of the starting the exam. They walked out. यार मैंने मुझे समझ में नहीं आया यार ऐसे कि ये उठ के कैसे चले गए. बिकॉज हमारे में क्या होता है, ये लास्ट मिनट तक आपको लिखते रहना है, चाहे कुछ पता हो. You're always trying to just make sure that you fill up answer sheets and just try writing whatever you think you can. So after the exam got over, I went out and I asked them, "Yeah, boss, how is it possible? तुम लोग ने how the hell did you guys manage to finish all of this so quickly?" And the answer that they gave was amazing, right? So they said, "Yeah, no, we actually didn't finish. We didn't know half the stuff, so we just there was no point wasting time, so we just left." And I was like, "Sorry, matlab, but aren't you guys afraid of failing?" And they were like, "No, like it's a lesson for us, right? It just means that we'll have to study harder." And I was just blown away by that concept, because हमारे में तो यार कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता फेल होने का, कैसे भी करके
Yeah.
पास होना है, so that. And these guys were actually cool about it. They didn't, for them, failing was not such a big thing. Whereas we had grown up, like all of us, right? We grow up in an environment where it's always so looked down upon. That was a shocker. And after that is when I think I started to actually enjoy my time at university, because otherwise, a lot of times and a lot of people I encountered with who went from India were all the time just over there also, their heads down, just trying to study and not enjoy the overall experience. For me, that was a huge sort of a turning point in my life, when I realized that there's more to life than just sort of books and then coming, getting your marks and getting your degree.
So did that in a way help you start your entrepreneurial journey, losing that fear of failure?
Absolutely. I think so. Two things I think that happened during that course of time. So one was obviously that fear of failure sort of went away, or I wouldn't say went away, but it definitely dissipated a lot. It reduced massively. The second thing was that after going to university in the UK, I realized that your degree does not define you. तो यार इंडिया में क्या होता है ना, कि आपने अगर इंजीनियरिंग करा तो फिर आपकी लाइफ में फिर आप डेवलपर के स्टार्ट करोगे, फिर आप प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर, वो पीएम प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर बनोगे, प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर बनोगे. सो इट्स अ वेरी डिफाइंड सॉर्ट ऑफ अ करियर पाथ. Over there, I realized that just by having an engineering degree doesn't mean that I have to pursue a degree pursue a career in engineering or technology or something. I could be anything and anyone I want to be. And I always, for some reason, loved numbers and stuff to do with finance, and I loved the business aspect of it. So while I did my degree in computers and telecom engineering, my first job, like I started my career as an investment banker, and I did that for 7 odd years before I quit to move back to India to start Dine Out, right? So that was the thing that made me realize that your degree is just a degree, right? It doesn't have to necessarily define what you do, and that actually gave me the confidence to pursue other things.
And were you like a hustler in college? Did you have some sort of entrepreneurial experiences at that time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I think the one thing I was from the start was street smart, right? I always believe that I was street smart, and I think going at university, it just sort of, the entire experience just sort of amplified that sort of streak in me a lot more. So just to give you a very small example, right? I used to come back every for holidays to Delhi, and then obviously by that time I'd made a lot of friends there from different parts of the world. There were a lot of girls as well, from different parts of the world. So whenever I used to go back, I always used to carry some gifts for them, and typically there were small jewelry items like silver jewelry हो गया, या fashion jewelry जो आपको जनपद या GK1 में you have these stalls selling yeah, फड़ी, exactly, dime a dozen. तो इतने सारे मिलते, तो मैं वो लेके जाता था उनके लिए, and they used to just love it, right? And some of them used to go back to their countries over holidays, like Spain or Italy or Germany or wherever, right? Wherever they were from, and they used to just love it. And then after a couple of times, they actually started asking me to bring something for either their mothers or their sisters or something like that, because they just loved it and they couldn't, it was a gift, but something similar over there would have was costing a small, like let's say a silver earring would cost around 40 to 50 pounds over there, whereas India में जनपद जैसे में 400-500 रुपए का मिलता था. So they used to, and obviously the designs etc. were a lot better over here. So they just started asking me to bring some. And over a period of time, I realized यार कि इसका तो मतलब why don't I take advantage of the situation? So in the end, basically what I did was जो मेरी friends थे, मैंने उन्हीं को बोला यार आपको भी इतना पसंद आ रहा है, तो आप क्यों नहीं इसको आगे बेचते हो? मतलब I will bring them from India in bulk, and आप
Yeah.
आगे अपने like countries में जहाँ पे भी friend circle में बेचो. And eventually what happened was that small thing became so successful that for during my breaks, then I stopped coming back to India, and during Easter breaks and all, I was actually traveling to different countries with these friends of mine. And वो लोग कभी स्पेन में अपने लोकेलिटी में स्टॉल लगा रहे हैं, अपने फ्रेंड्स को बेच रहे हैं, and we ended up making a very good sum of money. Like that was a pocket money which helped me travel all across Europe during university, etc. So and it was like no one ever thought of doing that. It was just a great small thing that just sort of worked over time. That was a great experience.
So, from doing a technical or an engineering course to moving into finance, was that? I mean, how did that happen? Was it easy to crack that interview and to convince the company? And so tell me about that.
So that struggle was a massive struggle for me. So that was a 1.5 year struggle. So typically, what happens is that when you're in the last year of studies in the UK, you start applying for next year's job. So September, let's say September is when you start your final year. So September to January ke window mein you start, and you're supposed to graduate in July, August. So from that September, January window, you start applying for jobs for the following September. And a lot of most big companies in the UK have a graduate program where every year they take a few graduates who've got a good degree, and then who are able to, so you have full interviews and all, and it's like a 5-6 step interview process where you have to fill on first an online application, then if successful you do a psychometric test, वो भी हो जाता है, तो फिर आप पहले जाके HR के साथ राउंड होता है, फिर आपका ग्रुप राउंड होता है, फिर आपका मैनेजर्स के साथ राउंड होता है. It's a 6-7 step process, right?
This would be like management training program जैसे इंडिया में होता है MT program.
Absolutely. इंडिया में जो मैनेजमेंट ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम होता है वो वहाँ पे ग्रेजुएट प्रोग्राम होता है.
Okay.
So and most company
and which year was this when you were?
So I graduated in 2005 July. So I started doing this from 2004 September. The challenge for me was because I was an international student, I had to be accepted at the top 500 odd companies in the UK, because they were the only ones who could process my work permit. So typically every year so if you don't get a work permit, then obviously you cannot work in the UK, and then you have to come back to India. So at that time, I remember there was a scheme where it allowed you to stay up to maybe, I think, 2 years, and within 2 years, if you weren't able to find a job, so you had to come back. And during that time, you're free to do odd part-time jobs, etc., to earn that. So during university, to save up, I had also started working in the bar at the university just to have some extra money, because I could ask my parents again and again for money. Like, it just didn't feel right.
Okay.
Actually, that was a huge learning as well, because in India, we're dependent on our parents till the time we find a job, and even afterwards. Wahan pe, once you're at university, right, you're by yourself. You figure it out. What you do. So mostly everyone works, does some part-time jobs, etc., right?
So your cost of living, you were managing on your own, basically.
Absolutely. So no, I wouldn't say that's true entirely. Like obviously, my parents were giving me the cost of accommodation, which was also very high, and I was managing the living, like whatever I had to do, whether I had to travel, whatever I had to fend for I had to make my own money. So I was 2004 पे मैंने apply करना start किया, and my language skills were always good, so I was always able to pass the written interviews, the application forms, but I was never able to. So for starting few interviews where I went to, I was completely blown away by, like, no one prepared. I honestly was not prepared at all for the type of discussions that people were having, how they wanted you to answer, and you always think यार कि चलो interview देंगे हो जाएगा, but there was a whole process behind it which I had absolutely no idea about, and I was very clear that मुझे engineering की job नहीं ढूंढनी है उसके बाद. So I started applying to all the major financial companies, banks, big fours, audit firms, whatever. Like, कि मैं engineering यार वहाँ पे कुछ करूँगा. So it was a double whammy for me, more difficult because I did not have an accounts or finance background. So and when I started going for these interviews, I was absolutely sort of blown away. So the process is कि आप सितंबर से जनवरी अप्लाई करते हो, फिर जनवरी ऑनवर्ड्स आपको रिजल्ट आना स्टार्ट होता है कि एंड देन फ्रॉम फेब्रुअरी टिल ऑल द वे अप टू अप्रैल you have your multiple other rounds of interview, and then by April, May, they tell you that okay, you can start in September or October or whatever it is. 2004 September से लेके I think 2005 January तक I would have probably filled around 100 odd application forms.
Okay.
And उसमें से I think I would have passed the written on around 50 of them. So application form and psychometric test, and I would have probably attended 50 odd interviews. और उन लास्ट इंटरव्यू में मेरा सिलेक्शन हुआ नहीं, तो लाइक कंप्लीटली फट गई. आई वाज लाइक टेकन अबैक बिकॉज यू हैव थॉट्स यार साउथ दिल्ली गुड एजुकेशन, हम तो कुछ दुनिया में उखाड़ देंगे सॉर्ट ऑफ अ थिंग, राइट. यार फट गई, समझ में नहीं आया कि व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, लाइक. एंड नाउ यूनिवर्सिटी इज ओवर, सो I wasn't able to find a job. University ended in July 2005 was a graduation, and I had absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. And I was for sure I didn't want to come back.
वो ग्रेजुएट प्रोग्राम का इंटेक भी फिनिश हो गया होगा उस टाइम तक.
Absolutely, ग्रेजुएट प्रोग्राम का इंटेक भी फिनिश हो गया. और अब पेरेंट्स प्रेशर डाल रहे हैं कि वापस आओ, वहां पे नहीं हो रहा, वापस आओ. तो मैंने बोला मैं वापस आऊंगा नहीं. सो पेरेंट्स वर ऑब्वियसली अ बिट अपसेट. दे सेड ओके, वी आर नॉट गोना गिव यू एनी मनी नाउ. तुम्हारा हमने एजुकेशन कराना था, करा दिया, अब हम तुम्हें आगे ज्यादा पैसे देंगे नहीं. मेरी फट गई. सो टिपिकली क्या होता था, the entire academic year, right, had multiple breaks. So हमारा सेमेस्टर होता था let's say सितंबर से दिसंबर, then दिसंबर में विंटर हॉलीडेज, then होता था जनवरी से मार्च, then फिर ईस्टर हॉलीडेज, then the final semester, and then July to September was a 4-month break. So every year
Right.
you come back to India for that 3 to 4 months break. Now July 2005 आ गया है, ग्रेजुएशन हो गया है, समझ में नहीं आ रहा क्या करें. I cannot go back to India because I was कि अगर मैं इंडिया चला गया तो मैं फिर पता नहीं वापस आ पाऊंगा या नहीं आ पाऊंगा, क्या होएगा. So at that point in time, some of my friends in university had found a job in London. So Essex is University of Essex is maybe an hour away from London. So a few of my friends had found jobs meanwhile. So I thought I decided, चलो ठीक है यार, कुछ हो नहीं रहा, तो मैं उन्हीं के साथ जाके I would crash at the place. So it was the first time actually, where for an entire year I lived on a couch, and it was a mind-blowing experience for me that कि यार मतलब what was I used to and अब क्या हालत हो गई, like unemployed. So early on in my career living on a couch, यार समझ में नहीं आया मैं करूँ तो क्या करूँ. Then I started doing odd jobs. So I remember that during that entire, so now July till September now I cannot do again, summer holidays है, और मैं कुछ application forms भी खुल नहीं रही है, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा क्या हो रहा है, तो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते. So then I picked up a few jobs. So I had like 2 or 3 odd jobs during that time. I was because I was a bartender at university, so I was doing bartending at a couple of local pubs. I was also doing serving at a couple of restaurants. I also did a dishwashing job, etc., etc. And for me that was like a rude awakening because as you said at the beginning, right? Imagine a South Delhi kid trying to kids inside a restaurant, right?
स्पेशली इंडिया में तो इतना वो जलील जॉब है.
हाँ, इंडिया में तो ऐसा कुछ होता है यार. इंडिया में तो अपना ऐसा कोई कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है ना कि आपको समर में काम करना है, एक्सपीरियंस करना है, पैसे कमाने हैं. So there is no, the concept of odd jobs doesn't exist in India. And in fact, when my parents heard what I'm doing, they were like, they had started, they were so upset कि क्या कर रहे हो, इसके लिए तुम्हें पढ़ाया, all of that, कभी-कभी थोड़ा होता है. In fact, just as an anecdotal sort of thing, so we all, like, obviously growing up in South Delhi, you never have to do anything for yourself, right? So the first time I ever came back from UK after going there was December 2002 when I was back on my winter break, and I remember the first meal I had, right? I went to the kitchen and washed my dishes myself, and my mom and my servant and my dad are just standing there looking like इसको क्या हो गया है?
Okay.
And also we are never in the habit to cook. So my first 3 months of my time in the UK, which was September 2002 to December 2002 was a nightmare. मुझे कुछ आता ही नहीं था तो यार कितना मैगी खा लोगे आप कितना जंक फूड खा लोगे. So when I came back in that December break, I asked my mom, यार आपको मुझे खाना बनाना सिखाना ही पड़ेगा.
Okay.
So that like everyone, my friends were like, यार तो एक महीने के लिए आया तो let's have fun, and I was like, यार नहीं मुझे, imagine I'm saying नहीं यार I have to learn how to cook because I couldn't take this eating junk food for the next 3 years. And in fact, sometimes when I'm having joking with my mom, I tell her very often that the best thing that you've ever done for me is shown me how to taught me how to use a pressure cooker. That for me was a lifesaver because from there on I developed my love for cooking, and today actually I know how to cook in sort of 7 different cuisines. And the way that happened was that every year I used to learn 2 cuisines in London at university because I had friends from all over, right, who were there,
Right.
and I used to teach them Indian cooking, and then they used to teach me their cuisine.
Right.
And
Okay.
in fact, this actually helped later on. So during this time when I was doing these odd jobs, etc., we were actually, so my friends were living in a huge apartment complex. जैसे आजकल गांव में नहीं होता था apartment, so they were living in that apartment complex with around 500-600 flats, etc. So while I was doing these odd jobs, I used to cook a lot. Like अब घर पे होगे तो क्या करोगे यार, आप खाना बनाओगे. So I used to cook a lot for myself, for my friends. I used to do that. And over a period of time, the food became so good that I actually in that neighborhood, in that complex only, I started selling packaged food.
Oh wow.
Portion of food, because obviously, see, the lifestyle in the UK is very different, right? Everyone mostly lives by themselves, and your day starts at 9, so you have to be at work at 8:30, right? So that means you get up early, you leave early, you come back. Everyone typically wants to go out for a couple of drinks, so people don't cook that often, right? People miss home cooked food. And because I was able to give them that, I was able to sort of make some decent pocket money from that as well.
Plus, it was the start of being a food entrepreneur or a food tech entrepreneur.
So at that point, obviously, which is that यार पैसे कमाने, उस टाइम नहीं सोचता कोई कि यार entrepreneur बनना है या क्या करना है. उस टाइम तो होता है पैसे कमाने हैं, survive करने के लिए.
Okay.
So that was fun, and so from basically July 2005 till I started doing these odd jobs and started cooking, and then September onwards I started this application process again, but this time I was a lot more prepared. See, 1 year back in 2004, right? September, I was very cocky. That यार ठीक है क्या हो गया, application जो है मैं तो smart हूँ, हो जाएगा. So my application, like I didn't prepare enough for those interviews. That's what I realized in hindsight. So that time I just started talking to a lot more people, reading up a lot more, brushing up my interview skills, etc. So I did a lot of preparation for it because I was like, यार अगर ये इस बार नहीं हुआ ना तो फिर वापस इंडिया जाना ही पड़ेगा. And a few of my friends were also in the same boat as me, and who at that point in time जिनका नहीं हो रहा था ना यार, so सबने बोला था यार हम IT tech नहीं करेंगे, but eventually all of them, because they were not able to do anything else, ended up taking some IT jobs or tech jobs, कोई QA tester ये वो, all these sort of jobs, and I was dead sure that I don't definitely want to do that. तो मैंने फिर बोला यार अब तो रेडी होके करना पड़ेगा. So again, that entire September to January sort of time, I spent a lot of time sort of preparing for these job applications. At that time, I probably filled around 200 applications. So I filled जो भी मिलता था, I used to fill that application. I passed those interviews, etc. And I had approximately 100 odd physical face-to-face interviews. Went to all of them, traveled, blah blah, etc. All of those things. So that entire 9 months from September to 2005 till April 2006 just went in doing that. And these were all jobs in finance. And picking up skills, कैसे आंसर करना है, क्या आंसर करना है, क्या बोलना चाहिए, क्या नहीं बोलना चाहिए. ग्रुप डिस्कशंस होता है तो कैसे बिहेव करना है. So you pick up all these skills while you're experiencing it. And eventually it came down to that I got job offers from 3 top investment banks.
Wow.
So it was, I still remember, obviously. So it was Merrill Lynch. I got from BNP Paribas, and I got from Citibank at that point. Citibank jobs in London, and the reason why I chose BNP Paribas was that Citibank and Merrill Lynch में ना टेक्नोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट में मिल रहा था,
Okay.
एंड यहाँ पे मुझे ट्रेडिंग में मिल रहा था. So graduate,
Okay.
so even on the graduate program, you have different tracks. So you have
Right.
the technology or the business. So, so at BNP Paribas, I just got it on the business track, whereas everywhere else I was getting it on the technology track. So technology track में मुझे जाना ही था, because again, while it's an investment bank, you're not doing anything with finance.
Right.
So eventually, I still remember April 23rd, 2006 was the day that my final offer letter came. And I was so, like, honestly relieved at that point in time. And another reason why I wanted to do investment banking was that the salaries were amazing. The starting salaries by itself were amazing. So, just to give you an idea, the starting salary at that point in time was £35,000 in 2006. That was my starting salary with the joining bonus. Whereas the average salary across sectors for someone who's been in employment for 5 years is around 45,000. So as a start, and a typical graduate job starts at around 20 to 22,000 in other sectors. So investment banking was the only sector, like finance was the only sector where the salary was also so high. So obviously, I was elated and ecstatic because I had just endured this 9-10 odd months of hardship where I was living on a couch, cooking food, washing dishes, doing all types of odd jobs to sort of survive. So I think that was a very sort of an emotional moment for me, and I vowed to make sure that I never I never forget how difficult that period was, and so that I never take the job lightly.
Yeah. So how many years did you spend at BNP Paribas, and how was like the life of trader? What was that like?
So I spent 2006 till 2012. So I was actually there for 6 years. 2011, 5.5 years. And the advantage was that because I was in the graduate program, I could do multiple tracks. So typically it's a 2-year graduate program where you spend six months on different departments. So I did investment banking for a bit. I did wealth management. I was on the trading desk. So I did multiple things just to sort of figure out what I eventually want to do. So that was great. That was a great experience. But also on the side, I realized that this experience of finding a job, what I've been through, I should never forget that, because obviously, and I learned a lot. So I actually started doing part-time coaching as well for graduates who were looking for jobs in finance, and that also. So over there are a lot of consultants, companies who actually do this, where they charge students and who train them to be sort of job ready.
Like a workshop for.
So it's basically they prepare you for interviews, how to answer your the assignments, the question paper, basically the application forms, etc. So the application forms are also like they ask you 7-8 essay type questions. So all of those things. It's a very comprehensive process.
And जैसे इंडिया में CAT MBA entrance की जैसे coaching होती है, something like that, I guess.
But it's it's nothing like that. It's not a classroom coaching. I think it's a one-on-one coaching. यार आपका let's say इस बैंक से इंटरव्यू आया है, तो how should you prepare for it? क्या पूछते हैं? And mostly the students on that working with that consultant were either Chinese or Indian students. So I was able to help them as well. Obviously, earn some money on the side. But also the one thing that I did was that now see understand मैं finance में तो आ गया हूँ, but मेरे को finance का F भी नहीं आता है, because obviously I've zero background. So I took it upon myself to learn do my CFA. So do CFA. So CFA is a Chartered Financial Analyst course. It's one of the it's a as I say, it's a chartered course, like a professional qualification, which is considered to be one of the best in the financial side in the finance world. And it's typically over 3 stages. So you have to give 3 exams, level 1, 2, 3, and you have to have work experience of 5 years to be actually able to be called a CFA.
Okay, so this would be like the CA qualification in India.
So I think it's
in terms of the prestige, like once you are.
So I remember at that point in time, like globally, there are only I think around 500,000 or maybe 300,000 CFA charter holders. So that's how rare that thing is, and you have to. It's actually a lot of people drop off on level 1 or level 2 or something. So it's a so it's a very difficult course. And the worst part is that I had to do it while, so you have to do it, like I had a full-time job obviously, and I had to make sure that
Right.
I'm now able to sort of do something in this domain.
Hmm.
And also, the money, so think of it this way as well, right? At 20 years old, so in September 2006 when I started, I was 21.
Hmm.
At 21 I had a 35,000 salary, and I was like, obviously I'd never seen so much, I never had so much financial freedom.
Yeah.
So it was easy to get carried away as well. So I partied a lot and all of that, those things as well. But at the back of my mind, I was always like, yeah, I should never forget that 1 year that I've been through. So I decided to do the CFA. Now the problem with the CFA is that you cannot just give the exam anytime. There is only one exam in June. And अगर आपने वो उस time pass नहीं किया, then you have to wait till next June to give your paper. And the course is so tough. So I used to wake up at like 6 o'clock, study for 1.5 hours, go to work, then then from work, obviously staying late, investment banking, notorious hours, then go to a library, study there from sort of 7:30, 9:30, go back home, cook food, sleep. So, that was so while I had my fun, obviously, that was the routine for 6 months of the year because I gave my exam. So 2007, I remember 2007, June, I gave that exam. 2008, the market, meltdown.
Yeah, you had the Lehman crash and all.
Yeah. So, I survived. I was there firsthand, and that was probably the most scary time of my career. Even even this situation was not as scary as then, because at that time also I was just 22, 23. But more importantly, the financial sector was hit badly, and I just had 2 years of experience by that point in time, and there were people with 10, 12 years of experience who were being let go, who were ready to work at my salary or our salary level at that point, because people were just being made redundant left, right, and center. So ekdam फट गई थी, so I have to make sure I had to work double hard. So 2008 till mid 2009 was career wise, I was working like 13, 14, 15 hours a day. I was completely sort of burned out. Like I was completely I was completely sort of just gone. Sort of thing. एकदम हालत ऐसी हो गई थी. And then जब थोड़ा semblance आया, I was able to survive, keep my job intact. And then 2009 again I gave my level 2 exam, and 2010 I gave level 3. I did not pass. And 2011 finally I gave my level 3 in June again. By this time something interesting had happened. So in 2010 November, I was speaking to Sahil. So Sahil was in the US at that time. And हम लोग वापस इंडिया आते थे तो बातें करते थे यार, कि मिलते थे कि कुछ करना है, कुछ करेंगे, जॉब से पक गए हैं, ऑल ऑफ दैट, बर्न आउट हो गया है, और अगर 14-15 घंटे काम करने तो अपने लिए क्यों नहीं करते, that sort of thing. So एक दिन, so I worked on a deal where Open Table, which is the largest table reservation platform in the world, was buying out Top Table, which was a UK equivalent.
Okay.
And I was working on behalf of the seller. And when I looked at that model, so this is November 2010. I looked at that model, I realized, यार ये तो बहुत ही सही model लग रहा है, और basically they were helping customers discover restaurants. And at that time हमारा भी experience होता है, इंडिया दिल्ली आते थे तो हम वही 4-5 restaurants में बार-बार जाते थे. It was very difficult to figure out where to go. So we realized that we are also facing the same problem, तो कुछ करते. तो मैंने November 2010 में साहिल को फोन लगाया. एक दिन बहुत ही बैड डे हो रहा था और मैं ब्लूमबर्ग स्क्रीन को देख रहा था. मैंने बोला यार छोड़ो यार, अब ये सब और नहीं हो रहा. तो मैंने साहिल को फोन लगाया, मैंने उसको ये आइडिया बताया, और साहिल भी बोलता है हाँ. तो साहिल also he did his engineering in Bangalore, then he went to IIMK Kozhikode, and then from there he went to the US to for a job. He was with Mu Sigma at the moment. He was in the US to he was उसका जो होता नहीं है
एनालिटिक्स में था basically.
हाँ एनालिटिक्स में था. एंड उसको यहाँ से Microsoft was his client, Mu Sigma client Microsoft था. उसको they sent him to the US to handle it from there. So I was speaking to him यार, and he was like हाँ यार मैं भी थक गया हूँ, कुछ करते हैं. So हमारी नवंबर में बात हुई, and he was like यार just a rant, यार थक गए. And also I thought just a rant. So I told him everything. I shared with him a few document like business, like financial, etc. And I thought that's the end of it, right? New Year आया, खत्म हो गया. And then one day in February 2011, Sahil just calls me up and tells me कि यार मैं 3 दिन बाद इंडिया जा रहा हूँ, मैंने अपनी नौकरी वोकरी छोड़ दी और ये आइडिया बहुत सही है, ये करते हैं. And I was like, sorry, क्या? I thought मतलब वो, you know, he's drunk. So I was like, are you crazy or what? हमने बोला नहीं यार, मतलब आइडिया बहुत बढ़िया है, मेरा हो गया, मैं जा रहा हूँ. So I was like, dude, how can you do this? मतलब how can you like do this? मतलब कोई नोटिस बोलता है हाँ यार करना है तो ऐसे ही करना पड़ेगा, वरना तो कभी होएगा ही नहीं. तो I was also like, shit यार, अब क्या करूँ मैं? And so I started speaking to a lot of people around me, you know, people who like Indians who've been in the UK for a long time. My manager was an Indian. I was speaking to him also. And the one common regret that everyone, or like the one common thing that I had, that everyone used to say is कि हाँ यार अगर हमें भी चांस मिला होता तो हम भी चले जाते. अब तो like, you know, people who'd spent like 25 years in the UK, who basically Indians who'd gone there, were like, यार give it a chance, we would also gone back, we would also wanted to do something, but अब तो हम जा नहीं सकते, हमारे बच्चे हो गए, ये हो गए. So you know all these
EMI शुरू हो गई.
तो लाइफ स्टार्ट हो गई वो सब करने की यार. तो आई वाज लाइक कि शिट यार, करना है तो अभी करना पड़ेगा, वरना तो हो नहीं पाएगा. बट एज आई सेड, आई वाज आल्सो, you know, I'd spent 4 years of my time doing CFA also, so I couldn't, and my final exam was in June of 2011. तो मैंने साहिल को बोला चल ठीक है यार, तू जा, let's figure out something. आना तो मुझे भी है, बट कुछ फिगर आउट करते हैं.
So basically that CFA was like your plan B. Okay, you wanted to finish that and have that as a plan B.
हाँ, I wanted to have that as a plan B. At that point in time, I was thinking यार कुछ तो safety net होना चाहिए. So I said, so Sahil came back, he started working on the idea, we started doing some work. मेरा जून आया, एग्जाम खत्म हो गया, एंड अगस्त में रिजल्ट आता है. तो अगस्त में रिजल्ट आ गया, and by this time I had got the PR, so I had got my permanent residency for the UK, and I was 6 months away from from getting a UK passport. So I was 6 months away from getting a UK citizenship.
Right.
तो अगस्त में अब रिजल्ट आ गया यार. जिस दिन रिजल्ट आया ना, I was obviously happy, but that day someone told me कि यार अब तो तू कभी वापस नहीं जाने वाला है. Because people were like, now, you know, now you've got your safety net, now everything, now. And that for me was a moment again of, you know, I think the second moment of introspection in my life when I realized कि यार ये बंदे तो सही बोल रहे हैं कि like if I treat this as a safety net, I will never be able to commit myself fully to it. So CFA was the first step. Getting so my plan was I will take my citizenship and then go back, which meant going back in sort of March 2012 sort of a time frame. तो उस टाइम अगस्त में मैंने सोचा यार कि अगर ये बात तो सही है कि अगर ये हो गया तो, you know, I don't know if I will ever be able to commit myself fully to something knowing that I have a backup. You know, that fear of failure while कम हो गया था, but मुझे ये पता था कि यार फिर यही है कि फेल भी हो जाओगे तो कुछ ऑप्शन है, तो मे बी आई विल नॉट ट्राई इन हार्ड इनफ. सो जिस दिन रिजल्ट आया, द नेक्स्ट डे आई रिजाइन, एंड एवरीवन, माय मैनेजर्स एंड ऑल, लाइक, so basically your CFA program typically is sponsored by your company, so I got my company to sponsor it for me. And my manager was like कि साला we spent so much time and money to educate, मतलब पैसा दिया, ये course, you have to take time off, you have to do everything, right? So you've invested so much time, we've obviously invested time, money on this, and the next day you're quitting and going back. So their point is, if you're quitting and going to a different job, then also it समझ में आता है. But you're quitting and going back, so no one was able to understand that. When I told my parents, they thought I was joking, तो उन्होंने माना नहीं. So August 16th को मैंने quit करा. September 16th और September 14th was my last day, and September 20th I was back in India. The day I came back in India, that is when I actually told my parents, because Sahil ने भी अपने parents को तब नहीं बताया था. And this is now 2011 that we are talking about, right? So we're not our parents at that point in time, and our parents went ballistic.
How old were you then?
26.
Okay.
उनकी, my parents की, उन्होंने हमारी ले ली कि तुम लोग पागल हो, you guys are earning so much money. Like my mom literally asked me, तुम कोई drugs तो नहीं कर रहे हो? You know, like what brand, what are you smoking? You know, it was so difficult for them to understand, and their biggest worry, चलो मैं worry पे थोड़ी देर में आता हूँ, तो उनको तो पहले समझ में नहीं आया कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं. तो अब सितंबर हो गया है कि भाई क्या होता है ये ऑनलाइन अपना स्टार्टअप ये सब कोई जो पता नहीं धंधा करोगे. सो एवरीवन इज लाइक इट्स नॉट इजी, डिफिकल्ट, नहीं क्यों करना है एंड ऑल दैट. Anyways, we were like नहीं, and see that time, by that point in time, right, I had worked for 5.5 years. Sahil had worked, so we had some money saved.
Yeah.
So that's what we were, but for them it was difficult. So by the time I left, I was like at nearly £100,000. Sahil was earning around $100,000. तो उनको समझ में नहीं आया कि यार हम इतनी अच्छी तनख्वाह छोड़ के कैसे आ सकते हैं. तो उनको लगा कि ये बच्चे पागल हैं, ये 1-2 महीने में भूत उतरेगा और ये चले जाएंगे वापस. But that didn't happen. Then we started working on this idea. We started going to meet restaurants, etc. So the idea was we will start with an online table reservation platform in 2012. But जब हम रेस्टोरेंट के जाने लगे, रेस्टोरेंट बोले भाई कौन हो तुम लोग, बच्चे हो, ये क्यों हम इतने सालों से धंधा चला रहे हैं, हमें नहीं करना है ये सब, कोई ऑनलाइन इंडिया में करता नहीं. See, this was early days, right? It wasn't like internet, like it wasn't that prevalent in India at that point in time. So
at this time was Zomato there?
Zomato had just started, but it was Foodie Bay at that point in time.
Okay.
So it was very early days. अब हम लोग जा रहे हैं कर रहे हैं तो so Vivek, who's our friend, he was in the merchant navy at that time. So from 2002 वो direct school किया, merchant navy में चला गया. He did his certification, everything, and he was up to become a captain.
Okay.
उसको भी 10 साल हो गया था सेल करते हुए, and he was about to become a captain at that point in time. तो वो जब छुट्टी पे आया था तो उसने बोला चल मैं वेला ही हूँ, मैं तुम लोग का हेल्प कर लेता हूँ. He also started going with us to some restaurants and all. And then our fourth friend was Nikhil. He was already working in Delhi only. So he was with DSP BlackRock. So he was the only one who had ever worked in India. And he also said कि यार चलो ठीक है, मतलब I am also tired of my job. I want to do this. So Nikhil joined us, saying that I will do this, and Vivek was just helping us as friends. And करते करते हमने decide करा कि यार हम लोग जो ना 2012 was a leap year. We just decided sometime in November 2011 यार 2 महीने हो गए करते हुए कुछ हो नहीं रहा, हमें लॉन्च करना है और हमें 75 रेस्टोरेंट चाहिए लॉन्च करने के पहले. तो हमने एक डेट डाली दिसंबर में कि Feb 29, 2012 को हम लॉन्च करेंगे. ये हमने डेट डाल दी. And then we started working backwards for that. See, while we were engineers, हमारे को कोई टेक का बैकग्राउंड नहीं था, तो हम लोग अपना वेबसाइट आउटसोर्स करके डेवलप करवा रहे थे. हम रेस्टोरेंट्स के साथ मिलने जाते थे, मीटिंग्स करते थे, and all of that. So Vivek started helping us. The day we announced to our parents that यार हम लोग 29th Feb को start कर रहे हैं, चारों and all, imagine this is not one set of parents that we have to announce it to. We are announcing to 4 sets of parents because they're all friends. Because we've known each other since 5 years old. They went पागल हो गए. उनका सबसे बड़ा कंसर्न था कि तुम पागल हो गए, तुम लोग 26 साल के हो, तुमसे शादी कौन करेगा. So they didn't care that we were doing a startup. They didn't care we didn't have jobs. You guys are 26, time to get marriageable age. Who the hell is gonna marry you guys if you guys are gonna be doing your own job work छोड़ के startup करने बैठे हो. So Sahil, his family being the most conservative of the lot, at 29th February 2012 को हमारा लॉन्च होना था. 28th Feb 2012 को उसका रोका हो गया.
अच्छा. he already knew the girl या उन्होंने fast track कर दिया सब चीज एक महीने के अंदर. गर्ल को 14th February को लड़की को मिला, सब हाँ हुआ. 28th February तो within 1 month of time, 1.5 months सब चीज हो गया. And for me and Nikhil also, we within 1 year of starting Dine Out, we got married. And again, parents kind of like fast tracked it. Yeah.
No, so both of us were dating someone, but parents sort of fast tracked it. They like कि यार तुम लोग. So
but you were in UK, so you were dating someone in UK, yeah, in India.
No, I was dating someone. So I through common friends I knew someone, and then when I moved, when I came back to India at that point in time, we started dating and something, and at that. तो जब ये हुआ ना तो उन्होंने वो पूरा प्रोसेस ही फास्ट ट्रैक कर दिया कि भाई तुम्हें कोई मिल गया तो हम तो ढूंढेंगे नहीं, तो यही डन. तो
लड़की फंस गई तो उसको शादी करा दो फटाफट.
मेरा भी रोका एक में. सो निखिल और हमारा दोनों का रोका डाइन आउट के स्टार्ट कर. सो माय रोका एक्चुअली हैपेंड 1 month आफ्टर स्टार्टिंग डाइन आउट, एंड निखिल का पहले ही हो गया था. एंड देन विदिन one year 3 of us were. So Sahil got married in April 2012. Nikhil got married in October 2012, and I got married in Feb 2013. So we basically, that was, we were married and everything, and then but अच्छा, anyways, coming back, so हमारा ये हो गया था, then अब काम start हो गया है, Dine Out start हो गया है, सुबह हम लोग अब we started off as an online platform on 29th Feb. फर्स्ट मार्च को हमें रियलाइज हुआ यार इंडिया में ऑनलाइन तो चलता नहीं है, तो हमें एक कॉल सेंटर सेटअप करना पड़ेगा. So जल्दी we got a couple of phone numbers, we set up a call center where people could call and make reservations and all of that. So just to put things in context, in the first month, in March 2012, we seated around 700 diners.
Okay.
In February 2020, we processed close to 10 million diners. So that's where we sort of grown from there. But obviously that itself is a long journey. But anyway, so all of this happened, and still our parents were not convinced कि कुछ हो रहा है. So we raised our angel round of funding in August of 2012. So within 6 months of starting up, we raised our angel round of funding, and that's also a very interesting story.
Tell me about that. How did you raise the angel round?
So हमारा जो motto था ना, like was, so because of my time spent in the UK, Sahil in the US, one thing we always believed यार कि customer service ना एकदम best होना चाहिए. Even so, when we are talking on the phone to people, you have to be nice, courteous, and you have to ensure that you are able to sort of meet their demands. See, India is not known for being customer friendly to people or to their customers, services, etc. We realize that because we're in the service space, we have to be great, very helpful. So customers used to call us at that point in time. And so we used to ensure that यार जो भी request है हम help करें. अगर हमारा जिस restaurant के साथ tie up नहीं है, वहाँ पे भी उनको जाना है, कुछ कराएं. अगर बोलते हैं हमें birthday anniversary है तो उनके लिए कुछ free में arrange करा दें. So whatever, being as nice as you could to make sure that they feel welcome. Because see, dining out is a very sort of a until date, it's a very sort of a I would say
it's an event basically. It's not like a routine.
It's an event, right? You go out with friends or family. It's an experience. You want to have a nice time, and even the smallest of things could ruin it, and the smallest of things can make it better as well. So हमारा हमेशा से endeavor था कि यार हम customer service हमारी top notch होगी. So over a period of time, we used to get handled calls, and then eventually one of our customers who had been booking through us for a long time, from the beginning, just started asking more, etc., blah blah blah, and he just loved what we were trying to do so much that they ended up investing in us. So in August 2012, we raised around $100,000.
Who was this customer?
So this was actually a couple of guys called Ankush Nijavan and Gaurav Bhatnagar. So they are the founders of. So they themselves were entrepreneurs, and they were the founders of TBO, Travel Boutique Online. So they were also, they are big entrepreneurs now. At that point of time, obviously they were still in the travel space and etc. But that's what they were. And जब वो funding आई ना, तब यार पेरेंट्स को लगा कि हाँ यार कोई ये लोग कुछ तो ठीक कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज किसी और ने इनको पैसे दिए.
External validation.
So I think that was a pivotal moment in how they viewed us in their minds. कि चलो ये इतने बेवकूफ बच्चे नहीं है, कुछ तो कर रहे हैं, कुछ तो चलो कर लेंगे. But so when that 2013 में that happened, I think 2012 August में जब ये हुआ, तब as most entrepreneurs do, and I see today a lot of entrepreneurs make the same mistake. So now we are investing in a lot of startups, and this is a common mistake that we see entrepreneurs make is when after you got the funding, we became a bit crazy, and then we moved into a much bigger office. We started hiring people with fancy designations like the C-title executive, chief marketing officer, chief technology officer. So we did all of these crazy things, and sooner rather than later we realized, like 6 months later, जो पैसे हमें 18 महीने चलने थे, हमें realize हुआ यार ये तो 9 महीने में खत्म हो जाएंगे. We had a rude awakening. Business was obviously, it's difficult doing a startup, especially in
what was the revenue plan for you when you started? Like, did you think that restaurants will pay or customers will pay?
So from day one, we were very clear that restaurants will pay us. And from day one, we were charging restaurants for customers we were sending them. तो हमारा मॉडल था स्टार्टिंग में कि यार एक रेस्टोरेंट को हम पर डाइनर एक फी लेंगे 40 से 50 रुपए. तो अगर मैं 4 जने भेज रहा हूँ तो उसको मुझे 160 रुपए देने हैं. And
Okay.
the experience at that time was so bad because, see, it was, it's very difficult to ask money from restaurateurs, especially these are guys who've been in business for a long time,
Yeah.
40-50 साल के
Yeah.
लोग
Yeah.
थे,
Yeah.
एंड उनसे
Yeah.
400-500 रुपए मांगने जाते थे हम, तो बहुत अच्छा, हमें भी अच्छा
Hmm.
लगता था, सो बहुत होता था. सो इन माई फर्म बिलीफ, लाइक इफ यूर ओड मनी वट एवर द अमाउंट इज, एंड पीपल
Hmm.
शुड ऑनर
Yeah.
दैट.
Yeah.
तो ये हमारे
Yeah.
में स्टार्टिंग से था. तो हमारे ऐसे भी स्टोरीज हुए हैं कि मतलब एक 300 रुपए का, हमें एक रेस्टोरेंट से 300 रुपए का चेक लेना था, और वो चेक
Hmm.
वो हमें बहुत टाइम से नहीं दे रहा था. वो रहा था छोटा अमाउंट हो गया है,
Hmm.
बाद में दे देंगे, और फाइनली वो 300 रुपए का चेक मैंने नहीं, विवेक ने जाके एक रेस्टोरेंट ओनर से उसके 60 लाख की जैगुआर में बैठ के साइन करवाया. So
Yeah. Okay.
it was stories like this which were really
Hmm.
sort of the
Hmm.
early part of the years which make it like uh, बारिश हो गई थी एक दिन हमारे, लाइक इन द मॉनसून सीजन बारिश हो गई, हमारा पूरा ऑफिस भर गया था, फ्लड हो गया था. तो हम लोग
Yeah.
अपने आप
Yeah.
पानी निकाल रहे हैं, हमारे एम्प्लॉइज टेबल
Yeah.
पे बैठे हुए हैं, कॉन्फ्रेंस टेबल बैठे हुए हैं, कस्टमर
Yeah.
आंसर कर रहे हैं. सो वी डन ऑल दैट थिंग
Yeah.
फ्रॉम स्क्रैच
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
to say it like that. And I think those were and we did all of that once we realized यार shit अब तो पैसे नहीं बचे, अब तो फट गई हमारी. उस time so we spent all of this time sort of trying to figure out how to survive, etc. And then I think a good thing happened for us was, so again we were always very customer centric and very partner centric. So restaurants had good things to say about us, and at that time we were partnering with Times City. So Times City, which was the Times food and nightlife section from Times Internet,
Hmm.
was a partner. तो उनकी एक लिस्टिंग सर्विस थी और हम उनके लिए बुकिंग फुलफिल करते थे. हमने अपना क्रेडिट उनकी वेबसाइट पे लगाया था.
Hmm.
तो वहां से पूरी बात हुई, एंड देन दे, सो वी वर रेजिंग अ राउंड ऑफ फंडिंग, एंड हमारे पास टर्म शीट्स आ गए थे, एंड देन टाइम्स इंटरनेट सेड दैट दे वांट टू सॉर्ट ऑफ डू एन एक्विजिशन.
Okay.
So this is 2000 end of 2013, and it's only been a year and a half sort of we started the business, so we had absolutely no idea. हमें तो पता नहीं था एक्विजिशन क्या होता है, हमने तो सोचा था यार हम इसको धंधे को चलाएंगे. बट एनीवेज,
Yeah.
we spent 7 months doing the back and forth with Times Internet before we finalized that that's in the interest of the business to actually do this decision today, because the way they were saying their vision was aligned with what we were thinking. And what we realized is that obviously the amount of money that we spend that we'll raise, a lot will go towards sort of marketing.
Marketing.
And
Yeah.
Times Internet, obviously being part of the Times group, would be able to help us in this. So in 2014, April was when the acquisition with Times Internet happened. Within 2 years of starting up, I think that was a good moment for us. We had never thought about it till that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then our visions and just sort of aligned, and business started doing well, and we realized that we didn't want to sort of so basically, in a way, we had a clause that we could actually buy back some of the business if we want to stick
Okay. Okay.
and run and sort of grow the business. So we had like a 3-year lock in, and then after that we had an option to sort of commit for the long term. And by that time, so this was so 2014 से 2017 तक ये हुआ. जब 17 पे यार ये आया, that time we invoked that clause because we realized that the market food tech space is sort of very is heating up a lot, and and we wanted to be in it, so we want to be in for the long haul. By that time, a couple of other things had obviously happened. So we've done an acquisition. So till date, as Dine Out, we've done around 5 acquisitions. Our first acquisition.
So first, tell me this: did life for you change as a founder after getting acquired by Times Internet?
So I think the good thing. So I think it was a mixed bag, right? The good thing is that you don't have to worry about your sort of day to day. So we obviously, as a small team, when we got acquired, we were around 35 people. Today we are around 800 people. So at that 35, and even managing 35 people from an HR perspective was a nightmare. A lot of our time used to go on things like managing people, their challenges, admin stuff, and all of that, which meant that we were not able to focus on growing the business. So those things changed a lot for us, and Times Internet and their infrastructure was able to take care of a lot of these things. So that helped, and that meant we could focus on the business in the right way. Obviously, having some money in the bank at that point in time also makes life easier, because By this time, it was 2 years since we had been sort of running the business ourselves, and that angel round that we'd raised had
It was running out
wa-
fast.
was it had actually run out, and we had
Okay.
in the last 4 months we were actually taking loans from our from families. So we had taken some loans from our families, and we were not taking any salaries, etc. And we were married also, so there was multiple things that were happening, which made us realize the important, having cash is really important, money is important. So so those were the good things. I think on the downside, probably yes, you do lose a bit of your freedom, and there is obviously some layers of
Decision making.
decision making that gets added. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I think, but it was a good trade-off. But having said that, in hindsight, when I look at it, I think it was it worked. It was in the best interest of the restaurants, our customers, the business, and also for us, because after that, so many startups came in the food tech space and went away in the food tech space after raising millions and millions of dollars because of being not managed well. At times, infrastructure, while allowed us to grow, also I think in a way kept us in check.
Hmm.
So that
So,
was good.
okay. So what was the strategy, and how did it evolve over the years, and how did the acquisition fit into the evolving strategy for Dine Out?
So I think the main difference. So we had a couple of two things actually changed our sort of business model to where we are today. So the first thing that we realized is that because both Sahil and I studied the open table model very closely, we realized that the reason why open table was able to become so big was because of software. So we always knew that we had to have a software play with the restaurants, because like that was the stickiness that it provided.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that was one thing. So we acquired in 2015 a company called Inresto, basically had a CRM stack for the restaurant industry. And the founders of Vijay and Vamsi, and they sort of believed we are what they spoke and what we spoke was the right way to look at things. Our visions aligned, and we end up acquiring, and that helped us grow our B2B stack. So that was one, and that made us sort of provide.
And they have stuck around, the
So
founders of
yes,
Invest.
yes.
Okay.
Vamsi is not there, but Vijayan is still there with us, and growing the business with us. So that was one. The second thing that we realized is that we need to move away from a table reservation use case, because table reservation, to be honest, in India is only a 3 out of 10 use case. So if you're going out 10 times, आप 3 ही बार table reserve करोगे. So when we looked at the entire dining out model, we realized that, and we studied the delivery model very closely as well, having been in the space, and we realized that delivery doesn't make sense from a unit economics perspective, and you need millions and millions of dollars to sort of do that, and we didn't have that millions of dollars. तो जब हमने बाकी पूरा इकोसिस्टम देखा, तो हमने what we realized is that the payments is the one thing that's common across all dining out use cases, कि आपको अपना बिल तो पे करना ही करना है खाना खाने के बाद बाहर. And hence in 2016, late 16, early 17, we launched a feature called Dine Out Pay, where irrespective of wherever you're going out, you can pay your restaurant bill through the Dine Out app. And I think for us, that moment, that feature is today the integral part of the business, and that has changed our sort of platform from a table reservation platform to a complete dining out platform. So we did this in 2017, and then what we realized is that अब मेरा use, so एक चीज Dine Out के बारे में from day one, from 29th Feb 2012 था कि अगर आप हमारे थ्रू रेस्टोरेंट पे जाओगे तो you will get to save money. आपको डिस्काउंट जरूर मिलेगा. तो रेस्टोरेंट्स डिस्काउंट देता, डाइन आउट पे के थ्रू आपको एडिशनल कैशबैक और डिस्काउंट मिलता था. बट
Did Open Table also have discount as the customer acquisition strategy?
Open Table had convenience as a customer acquisition strategy, but in India what we realized is, however much we want to say that discounts is anti business, the fact is that Indians love discounts.
Yeah, absolutely.
That instant gratification everyone loves, and that is what is something that is required. Anyways, तो ठीक है, तो ये हुआ, तो हमें obviously discount देना पड़ा, तो discount देते थे. So However, what we realized that there's still something missing. So we now had a feature for people who wanted to reserve in advance, um, or did not want to wait. They could reserve a table and arrive at a restaurant and get a discount. People who did not want to decide, who were last minute decision makers. जैसे इंडिया में बहुत होता है कि यार मैं साइबर अब पहुंच गया हूँ, अब मैं डिसाइड करूंगा कहाँ जाना है. उस टाइम में reservation as a use case obviously did not make sense, but those
Right.
people also could pay their restaurant bill and still save money. बट एक थर्ड कैटेगरी के यूजर्स थे जो जिनको पैसे भी बचाने हैं बट उनको रिजर्व भी नहीं करना है और उनको कोई टेक प्रोडक्ट भी नहीं यूज करना है पे करने के लिए, बट उनको पैसे भी बचाने हैं. सो हेंस इन 2018 we ended up acquiring a company called Gourmet Passport, which was the original 1+1 platform in India. So it was a 3-year-old platform which was giving 1+1 at the best restaurants in the country. And that use case was basically, it was a check-in. So you arrive at the restaurant and once you're done with your meal, you just say, "आप Gourmet Passport, आप मेरा coupon unlock करो और आप discount ले लो."
So that was like the original gold. What today is the one?
Gold was copied from there. But yeah, so exactly. So अब जब वो हुआ ना, तब हमारा overall platform complete
And
because
who were the founders behind Gourmet Passport and what was that?
The founder of that Gourmet Passport was actually a gentleman called Rocky Mohan and his son Siddharth Mohan. They are better known as the family of Old Monk. So they are the makers of Old Monk rum.
Mohan Meekan.
Mohan Meekan, exactly. So they are the Mohan Meekan.
Right.
So,
Okay.
So and Rocky Mohan is such an inspiring gentleman because he started Gourmet Passport at the age of 64 or 63.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and such a beautiful product. So we obviously during this entire process, knowing him and all, we've obviously learned a lot from him, and they're also still with us today as part of the overall Dine Out family. As founders, they're also there with us today, and obviously we learn a lot from them. But yeah, so with Gourmet Passport, we truly became a dining out platform because अब आप रिजर्व करो, आप तब भी कर सकते हो, आप पे करो, आपको तब भी ऑफर मिल सकता है, और आप कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं तो रेस्टोरेंट में जाओ तब भी आपको ऑफर मिल सकता है. So that actually completed a B2C part of the picture. Meanwhile, we were making very good grounds on B2B. In restaurant हमने काफी restaurants पे sort of deploy कर दिया था. But एक challenge हमें आ रहा था कि if you look at a restaurant, the behavior of a consumer inside a restaurant, how does it happen? So when you arrive at a restaurant, you probably give your name on a register. They take down your name and phone number, and then they sit you on a particular table. And then they go in the so Inresto was doing that part. That Inresto was recording all the people coming in the restaurant. It had it had everyone's phone number, and it was also allocating tables to people.
Basically, it was like the CRM, the customer management.
Exactly, it was a CRM. But जब आप एक टेबल पे बैठ गए हो तो टेबल में रेस्टोरेंट में एक होता है बिलिंग सॉफ्टवेयर जो पॉस बोलते हैं जिसको, उसके अंदर आप एक टेबल खोलते हो और then all your orders are placed in that, from where finally the bill is generated. तो रेस्टोरेंट का सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम क्या था कि restaurants, and this is not just India, this is across the globe, did not know their customers because there was no way to map the customer sitting on the table to what he's ordering because एक technology नहीं बनी थी. So for 2017-18, we ended up like early part of 18, we ended up sort of integrating with multiple POS companies out there. So the POS market in India is very fragmented. There are approximately around 150 odd POS companies. इनमें से हमने ना top 10-12 के साथ इंटीग्रेट कर लिया था कि Inresto के थ्रू पता चल रहा है कि लेट्स से आदित्य गया है, वो टेबल नंबर 5 पे बैठा है, और POS से पता चल रहा है कि टेबल नंबर 5 पे किसी ने जो बैठा है उसने 10,000 का खाना पीना खाया है. तो by integrating Inresto with that POS, we were able to tell the restaurant that Aditya was the person sitting on table number 5 who just ordered 10,000 rupees worth of food. And the next time Aditya walks into the restaurant, they recognize basis the phone number that this is Aditya who's walked in. So ये journey पूरी complete हो रही थी POS के integration से. But what we realized is that even after having, because the market is so fragmented, 10 POS से integrate कर से कुछ नहीं होगा. मैं तब भी सिर्फ 20% ऑफ द मार्केट पे डाल सकता हूँ. मुझे अगर ज्यादा करना है तो मुझे या तो 100 पॉस पे इंटीग्रेट करना पड़ेगा या तो अपना पॉस बनाना पड़ेगा. एंड हेंस एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम इन 2018 November, we ended up acquiring a company called Tocus. which was one of the largest POS companies at that point in time. And so all cloud kitchens in India today use Talkers, whether it's स्विगी का बोल कंपनी है या इनर शेफ है, फ्रेश मेन्यू है, क्योर फिट है, सारे टॉर्कस यूज कर रहे थे
Okay.
एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम. एंड हमारा उससे टॉर्कस से एक और क्या एडवांटेज हुआ कि अभी तक डाइन आउट and Inresto was focused on the dining out segment, in the sense, where people need to go to restaurants like pubs or bars, etc. And Talkers was focused a lot on the lower end, like the delivery kitchens and the QSRs, etc. So we were also looking for something to complement us in that respect, and hence Talkers we ended up acquiring in 2018, and that actually completed our entire B2B stack as well. And today we are globally one of the only platforms that offer to a restaurant a B2C platform as well as a B2B platform. So now I can track I am able to tell a restaurant from the time a consumer decides to go out, I can track his journey, book करता है, वापस restaurant में आता है, क्या खाता है, क्या review छोड़ता है, what he goes, and then through Talkers we are also now able to cover the supply chain. So we've rebranded Talkers into Inresto only. And the entire Inresto module has around 10 sort of sub-modules which a restaurant can pick and choose depending upon his need. And we cover all aspects of the operation inside a restaurant, right to the supply chain. And we're just completing an integration with Amazon, where a restaurant will also be able to order some goods as well from Amazon using the Inresto platform. तो पूरा ही last mile integration हो जाए.
So you're creating an entire ecosystem for the food industry.
For restaurants, and that has actually helped us grow massively. So today we are one of the largest, I would say we are the largest tech provider to the restaurant industry. More than 12,000 restaurants use our B2B platform. We work with around 50,000 restaurants across 20 cities. We have nearly 22,000 restaurants on Dine Out Pay. And overall, we are processing close to 10 million diners a month.
So, Ankit, thank you so much for your completely candid stories, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
No, my pleasure, Aditya. Thanks a lot for having me over.
Thanks so much, Ankit. Thank you for your time.
Before we end this show, we'd like to tell you about Dine Out's CSR initiative called Project Thali, in which they have distributed cooked meals worth more than 50 lakhs to people suffering due to the pandemic. If you want to support Dine Out in this amazing initiative, just search for Dine Out Project Thali and donate. If you like the Founder Thesis podcast, then do check out our other shows on subjects like marketing, technology, career advice, books, and drama. Visit thepodium.in, that is thepodium.in, for a complete list of all our shows.
This was an HT Smartcast original.
HT Smartcast.
Log on to htsmartcast.com to listen to more such podcasts.